This inspiring story showcases the journey of a father, Mark, who spent his life working tirelessly in a 9-to-5 job, but regretted not building a legacy for his family. Encouraging his son, Nelson, to take risks and pursue entrepreneurship, Mark's advice ignites a transformation. Nelson starts a business, grows it into a global success, and changes their lives forever. A heartfelt tale of wisdom, persistence, and achieving dreams through determination and family support. Please subscribe my YouTube channel and press the bell icon for new update. In a small, modest town, there lived an elderly man named Mark. For most of his life, Mark had worked tirelessly at a 9-to-5 job. Every morning, he would rise early, prepare for the day, and head to the office where he had spent decades fulfilling his duties diligently. Though he had been a hardworking and honest man, Mark often felt a lingering sense of regret. He'd worked his whole life to provide for his family, but now, as he approached his twilight years, he realized that he had little to show for it. He owned no property, had no investments, and had barely managed to save enough to sustain his retirement. This thought weighed heavily on his heart. Mark had one son, Nelson, who had just graduated from university. Nelson was young, energetic, and full of ambition, but he often found himself at odds with his father's philosophy of life. Mark, having experienced the struggles of a salaried job, wanted something better for his son. Nelson, Mark often said, "I've spent my whole life working for others. I've given them my time, my energy, and my best years. But what do I have to show for it now? Nothing. I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did." Nelson respected his father deeply, but he was skeptical. "But Abba," he argued, "a stable job offers security. It's a guaranteed income every month. Isn't that better than taking risks?" Mark shook his head, his eyes filled with conviction. "No, my son. Security is an illusion in a 9-to-5 job. You are always at the mercy of someone else. They decide your worth, your hours, and even your future. If I could go back in time, I would start a business. I would take risks, invest in myself, and build something that could grow. Do you know why we have no property, no investments? Because I never took those chances. But you have the opportunity. Don't waste it." Nelson couldn't ignore the passion in his father's voice. The conversation planted a seed of thought in his mind. Over the next few weeks, Nelson began to research the world of business. He read books, watched videos, and sought advice from entrepreneurs. The idea of starting something of his own excited him, but it also scared him. What if he failed? What if his father's fears became his reality? One evening, Nelson approached his father. "Abba, I've been thinking about what you said. I want to start a business, but I don't know where to begin." Mark's face lit up with pride. "That's my boy," he said, placing a reassuring hand on Nelson's shoulder. "Starting is the hardest part, but remember, every great journey begins with a single step. What do you need from me?" "Guidance?" Nelson replied simply. Together, they brainstormed ideas. Mark, despite his lack of experience in entrepreneurship, offered wisdom gained from years of observing the world. "Look for something people need," he advised. "Something that solves a problem or makes life easier. That's where the real value lies." After weeks of planning, Nelson decided to start a small e-commerce business selling unique, high-quality handmade products. He used his savings to purchase initial stock and set up a simple website. The early days were challenging. Orders were slow, and Nelson often doubted his decision. But every time he felt disheartened, his father's words echoed in his mind. "Success doesn't come overnight, my son. Patience and persistence are key." Gradually, Nelson's business began to gain traction. His focus on quality and customer satisfaction earned him positive reviews and repeat customers. He reinvested his earnings into marketing and expanding his product range. Months turned into years, and Nelson's business grew beyond his wildest dreams. He opened warehouses, hired employees, and even started exporting to other countries. One day, after finalizing a major deal, Nelson decided it was time to share his success with the man who had inspired him. He drove to his childhood home where Mark still lived modestly. Nelson found his father sitting in the garden reading a book. Mark looked up and smiled warmly as his son approached. "Abba?" Nelson began, sitting beside him. "Do you remember the advice you gave me about starting a business?" Mark chuckled. "How could I forget? Did it help?" Nelson nodded, his eyes shining with gratitude. "More than you could ever imagine. Because of you, I took that first step. The business is doing incredibly well, Abba. We've expanded internationally and I've made investments in real estate and stocks. I've bought properties in the city and even set up a retirement fund for you." Mark's eyes widened in disbelief. "Mashallah, my son. I always knew you had it in you. But to hear all this, it's beyond my dreams." Nelson reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of keys. "This is for you, Abba. I bought a house for us in a beautiful neighborhood. It's spacious, modern, and has a big garden where you can read all day. You deserve to live comfortably." Tears welled up in Mark's eyes. "You've made me so proud, Nelson. Not because of the money or the house, but because you took a risk and believed in yourself. You've achieved what I could only dream of." The father and son embraced, their hearts full of love and gratitude. In the days that followed, they moved into their new home. Mark spent his mornings tending to the garden, while Nelson continued to grow his business. Together, they enjoyed the fruits of Nelson's labor and the peace of a life well lived. Mark often reflected on the journey they had taken. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that his son had broken free from the cycle that had bound him. Nelson, on the other hand, cherished the lessons his father had taught him, lessons not found in books but in the wisdom of experience. Years later, as Mark sat on the porch of their luxurious home, watching his grandchildren play, he smiled. His life's greatest investment had not been in money or property, but in the belief he had instilled in his son. And that, he thought, was the most valuable legacy of all.